Hello everyone. It's Daz, and sorry about this being a late upload. These past few weeks have been a blur, and while I haven't been doing my usual work, I've been trying to do research, catch up, just been a lot of reflection time, and I don't know why I'm more tired than usual. With that being said, if you hear birds in the background or cars driving by, I'm by a window, so I don't know how much the editing will cut out. This week's discussion is more of a what if, and it is what if there was a mass nationwide famine in the United States. This is more so built upon what I know from history, what some futurists would propose. It's more speculation than anything. In the early days of the United States, a lot of colonists faced famine because there was a lack of knowledge of how to farm. And then there was cases like the Dust Bowl that hit from Nebraska all the way down to Texas. Some modern factors that could cause a famine might be like a nuclear explosion or an invasion, some sort of war on the homeland, a cataclysm of some sort, like a natural disaster, say a massive earthquake or volcanic eruption where there's a lot of ash that messes with the air and with the land's ability to farm, maybe another Dust Bowl sort of situation, solar wind storms or disruption to the power grid or an EMP attack, loss of the knowledge of farming. This one would be more gradual and I'd say rare because you do have families that pass down the knowledge, but as more people become urbanized and farming becomes less of a way of life for some, then a lack of farming could lead to a lack of production. If there was a mass drought in places like California, where we depend on a lot of produce coming out of, or as in a previous video from last year, say like truckers went on a mass strike like they did in Brazil, that could cripple things. Those are just a few scenarios. So some consequences of such things happening: the famine, of course, crippled agriculture, a slowdown to production, a dependency of exports from other nations. Shelves in grocery stores would be emptied very quickly, similar to COVID, a lot of hoarding. Preppers would be the ones who would have the last laugh. Of course, canned goods, depending on how big the size of your family or those you live with, and serving sizes could go quite quick. Food banks would be overwhelmed. More would seek out pantries or other religious or nonprofit organizations, and they too would be overwhelmed. Rationing would occur. Social services would be overwhelmed as well because some people would seek out some forms of benefits. But if there was a shortage of food, programs like SNAP or the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program or food stamps or EBT probably wouldn't necessarily have the same appeal, and food deserts would increase, similar to how a lot of rural and urban areas in the inner city have a lack of healthy options. Maybe they have more gas stations with hot dogs or potato chips. We would have probably more unhealthy food available before we had healthy food. Now, funny thing is, every time there's like a hurricane and all the food gets cleared off of shelves, people take all the unhealthy food as well, but there's also a lot of vegan and vegetarian food left over. But if people were really starving, they actually might start eating that way as well. And there would be an increase in crime, poverty, suicide, and homicide, as well as domestic and familial abuse. There would be a lot of frustration. Some people wouldn't feel a need to live anymore. It could mess with some people who already have certain conditions, and some people may become violent. Riots, civil unrest, protests would ensue. People might raid or steal. There would be an increase in those taking up arms, gun sales, a lack of trust among citizens, amongst each other, with the local, state, and federal government, and zombies, or people that behave like zombies. Basically, the Walking Dead. The kind of like with the homicide, killing each other, pets to eat. You might see some cannibalism start to take place, or people might start realizing dogs and cats are a meal option, whether it's their own or their neighbors next door, Fluffy. And some new measures that might happen as a result of this. So you might have new laws and policies enacted on farming and land that might be introduced. Federal agencies would have to work with the state, local government to restore areas affected by disaster. There'd be a lot of loans, probably the Stafford Act used, and there'd be new rationing rules and restrictions, I would say, on buying for future generations. Maybe they would say for now on, when you go to the grocery store, you cannot buy more than 5 cans of beans. There might be new rules to encourage community gardening for people, that everyone, I know at least for our food bank, that we have here in Kansas City, there's a program, a partner program, where people can basically start their own little garden in their backyard and agree to give ever so little to the food bank, and they can keep the rest for themselves. It's supposed to encourage both community gardens, healthier living, as well as giving back to the community. And I could see something like that becoming the norm if, say, something so grand as a massive famine happens after the fact. This time period would serve as a cautionary tale in history books and to future generations of the importance and preciousness of resources such as food. There would be smaller and less developed adults, because if this generation of children wasn't able to eat properly, they most likely would not grow as tall or as strong as previous generations. And the next generation would be more frugal, thrifty, not want to waste money on as many trivial things, and they probably would clean their plates more so than us, where we waste so much food today. So those are more so my thoughts and what I gathered could happen if there was a massive nationwide famine. All of what I said could have some merit of truth. It could be off. I would like to know what your thoughts are on the idea if there was a nationwide famine. What would cause it? How would people react? What would the consequences be? And what do you think would be the measures and actions that the country on a local, state, and national level would take to curb this problem? Do you think we could recover from such a problem? I'd like to know what you guys' thoughts are on it. Sorry again about being late to make a video this week. Take care, God bless, and I'll talk to you in next Monday's live stream and next week's video. God bless.